So how similar and different are these two phones, the Realme X50 Pro and the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro? So the Realme X50 Pro or the Mi 10 Pro or the Mi 10 as well, because the Mi 10 and the Mi 10 Pro are very, very similar phones. They just have a slight difference with the extra zoom cameras and the extra fast charging that the Pro has over the Mi 10. But the Realme X50 Pro is a cheaper device, cheaper than the Mi 10 Pro and even cheaper than the Mi 10. Both the X50 Pro and the Mi 10 and Mi 10 Pro have 90Hz AMOLED panels, a very, very good spec for all of these price points. However, the Mi 10 series adds this curved display, but that's not taking anything away from the X50 Pro, which really matches it specs wise. It's just that a cheaper flat panel is used, and that is a way to keep the cost lower. You get a single cutout on the Mi phones and that dual cutout on the X50 Pro. Obviously, for screen aesthetics, a single cutout is preferable, but you do get an extra camera on the X50 Pro, and it's a good camera as well, being an ultra wide rather than a depth sensor. Charging is another area where the two companies have taken a different approach. Both of the Mi phones actually carry wireless charging, both at 30 watts, which is a really good spec for wireless charging. The Mi 10 adds 30 watt fast wired charging, the Mi 10 Pro with 50 watt, but that is eclipsed by the X50 Pro, which adds Oppo's insanely fast 65 watt fast charging. Really, the main area of difference that's actually going to affect your usage when you're using these phones is in the camera. Realme say the X50 Pro can go all the way to 20 times zoom, which is a pretty good spec, so let's see how it looks. Both of the phones have high megapixel cameras, so you're going to get good resolution out of both of them. Main differences are going to come with the color science, the dynamic range, and also the quality in the zoom lenses. It's actually an impressive zoom range on both of the phones, considering how much they are. I would say that the Mi 10 Pro at least does have slightly more details when you're zooming in really far. And it also has a longer zoom range in general, able to shoot up to 50x zoom, where the X50 Pro only goes to 20x. I think overall the stabilization on the X50 Pro is slightly better than the Mi 10. That's something that Oppo and Realme phones do pretty well. And it's something that Xiaomi phones don't do that well in general. And with that bigger front notch, you also get an extra ultra-wide camera on the X50 Pro. Because the Realme X50 Pro has two cameras at the front, you do get an extra ultra-wide camera, which you can use in photo and video. So even though the cutout is a little bit bigger, you do get that extra functionality of actually having an ultra wide. You can just get more in the shot. You can get a couple of people in for video and photo. So I'm glad Realme chose an ultra wide rather than a depth sensor, which doesn't really add too much. To give you an idea of just how much extra you can get in the shot with the ultra wide on the X50 Pro, here is that ultra wide shot. But check out the dynamic range and the colors and the skin tones of both of the phones. Definitely some unique differences between them. And that is going to be the theme of the camera comparison in general. Both of the phones have good cameras, but it comes down to when you push the phone, which one performs better. So check out for clarity and also those dark areas in the image being brightened up. Is there a lot of noise? Which one is more pleasing on the eye? And in video, both can record in 4K, but the Realme X50 Pro, because it has an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, it can only record in 1080p on the ultra wide. That's because 8 megapixels isn't enough to shoot in native 4K resolution. So that is something to be aware of. Also, another thing to be aware of, which is a big difference in the phones when you're actually using them, is how you come in and out of the zoom range in the cameras when shooting video. Realme with Realme UI, Oppo phones with Color OS make it very easy to zoom in and out throughout the range when shooting video. You can go on the ultra wide, the main, the 2x, 5x. The buttons are right there on the screen and it's very easy to shoot between them. Whereas on Mi phones, you have to pinch the screen. It's not a massive deal, but it is just quite annoying, and zooming in and out when you're shooting video just doesn't look very good. Stabilization of the main camera though on both of these is really good. And the next shot is a great example of just the difference in the color science between the two phones. Notice how different the colors are, the greens of the leaves and the red and oranges in the brickwork. And a quick test of the main camera going into the high megapixel modes. It's nice to have both of those modes right in the camera app. And something I noticed here is that the Mi 10 Pro seems to have slightly more natural background blur in the image over the X50 Pro. That could be down to the image sensor just being way bigger and so naturally producing that. Or it could be that Xiaomi are just putting this on digitally to a higher extent than Realme are. Xiaomi tends to brighten up everything in the image when it comes to night mode, whereas some other manufacturers tend to prefer keeping some of the dark areas much darker to provide a more contrasty image. The bigger sensor of the Mi 10 Pro should help the Xiaomi device just keep a little more natural dynamic range. But because the pixels are actually fairly small on the Mi 10 Pro, that could hinder it too. Notice that the X50 Pro loses stabilization when it comes to nighttime video, but it does keep a much more colorful, richer image than the Xiaomi, which tends to want to brighten everything in the scene. So overall, the two phones are definitely not head-to-head rivals. They have a different approach. Xiaomi decided to go for expensive components this time around, a curved display, which is more expensive camera hardware. And Realme decided to keep with a flat screen, which is cheaper and use cheaper camera hardware too. But with that extra money, Realme put insane fast charging on this phone, which really at this price point is a real killer. And with the money left over, they just reduced the price to give you a cheaper phone overall. Subscribe for all the latest tech news and videos. That's it for now, but I'll see you in the next one.